I've entitled my thoughts for today, Before and After, and we'll be looking at what can be viewed as one of the more disturbing episodes in Jesus' life. That's found in Luke's Gospel, chapter 8, verses 26 to 39. When the events of September 11th, 2001 were unfolding, I heard a news analyst proclaim that the world would never again be the same. I wondered if he would be proven right. He was. 9/11 was a before and after moment. On March 16th, 2020, Canada closed its borders to non-essential traffic due to the COVID epidemic, and the changes in the way society began to function wouldn't previously have been thought possible. It was a before and after moment. On February 24th, 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and the whole world has been impacted since. It was a before and after moment. All of us have seen the trajectory of our lives impacted by before and after moments, some of which were caused by forces outside ourselves, and some of which have been intensely personal. Jesus' ministry was full of before and after moments. But the particular before and after episode we look at today is noteworthy because of the mix of positive and negative changes it brought to a community. As a result, this unusual episode in the life of Jesus illustrates the messy way in which our lives are often impacted by before and after events. This is how this strange incident unfolded, according to Luke 8, verses 26 to 39, where it says, "They sailed," that's Jesus and his disciples, "they sailed to the region of the Gerasenes, which is across the lake from Galilee." And you should know that this follows immediately upon the episode where Jesus calmed the sea after a storm. When Jesus stepped ashore, that's at the land of the Gerasenes, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time, this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had commanded the impure spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him, and though he was chained hand and foot and kept under guard, he had broken his chains and had been driven by the demon into solitary places. Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, because many demons had gone into him. And they begged Jesus repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss, which is also known as the underworld, the place where demons exist or live. A large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. The demons begged Jesus to let them go into the pigs, and he gave them permission. When the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. When those tending the pigs saw what had happened, they ran off and reported this in the town and countryside. And the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people how the demon-possessed man had been cured. Then all the people of the region of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, because they were overcome with fear. So he got into the boat and left. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged to go with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return home and tell how much God has done for you." So the man went away and told all over the town how much Jesus had done for him. As I mentioned, when Jesus arrived at the land of the Gerasenes, he had just completed his famous crossing of the Sea of Galilee, where he had ordered a storm to cease after being awakened from deep sleep by his terrified disciples. We love the story about Jesus calming the storm, but what transpired next? Not so much. The man who met Jesus and his disciples on the Gerasene shore of the Sea of Galilee was the epitome of a tortured soul. He wore no clothes, attempts to restrain him with chains had failed, and in a state of irony, he lived among the dead. As we envision Jesus disembarking in the land of the Gerasenes and the demon-possessed man calling out to him, we can't help but anticipate what we think is about to happen. Jesus, we assume, will heal the poor man and all will be well, just as it was after he calmed the storm on the trip over. We expect that not only the demon-possessed man, but his family and neighbors will all be grateful to Jesus. Likely there will be a great celebration because the man who has been terrorizing the community has ended up being calm and healthy. Having read the story, however, we know that what ended up happening was far from clean and neat. Even though Jesus' actions in the land of the Gerasenes were equally amazing to calming the sea, the account feels as if it needs a warning disclaimer attached to it. The scenes you are about to experience may be troubling to viewers who expect Jesus to be nice. If you're like me, you kind of feel like skipping over this uncomfortable story to Jesus' feel-good return to Galilee, where he raised Jairus' daughter back to life. Rather than finding encouragement in the story of the demon-possessed man, we end up with questions to which we don't find comfortable answers. Instead of causing an instant healing along the lines of calming the storm like he had just done, Jesus entered into a negotiation with the many demons that had invaded the man. In a puzzling twist, Jesus shockingly granted a demonic request, and instead of sending the demons back to the abyss or the underworld from where they came, Jesus gave them permission to simply leave the man and to enter a large herd of pigs. Apparently, demons and pigs don't mix very well, and the demon-possessed pigs bolted off a steep embankment into the lake and were drowned. Not surprisingly, those tending the pigs were horrified, as were the rest of the community, when news of the destruction of their livelihood spread. The account ends with the formerly demon-possessed man, calm, clothed, and in his right mind, understandably wanting to go with Jesus. Even though Jesus had granted the demon's request not to be sent back to the abyss, Jesus refused this man's request and told him to stay. The rest of the community was all too glad to see Jesus leave because of the catastrophe to their economy, which had left them all terrified. This was not the scenario we expect from Jesus. The following are the kinds of troubling questions with which we are left. Do demons play a role in our own world? Why would Jesus negotiate with demons? Why would Jesus instigate the destruction of the pigs? Why did Jesus help one man but leave a whole community in turmoil? Why would Jesus cause people to be afraid? Troubling questions. We could easily get lost trying to answer these kinds of difficult questions, but I think there's a better approach. It's more helpful to recognize that this messy story offers an important dimension to our view of Jesus. As much as we like the neat and clean version of Jesus calming the sea or by raising a young girl back to life, a quick reality check reminds us that life is rarely as clean and neat as we would like it to be. Despite our aversion to certain details within this encounter, it reflects the reality that the challenges of life are often rough and messy. The truth is that we need a God who will enter into the messiness of our lives. This story reflects the reality that life is often a battleground against the forces of evil which threaten us. Unfortunately, battlegrounds result in casualties. While our modern sensibilities are troubled by the destruction of the pigs, I think they represented the casualties in a war between the demonic forces of evil and the liberating work of Jesus. We also see that the battle to restore this man's life could not happen without its impact being experienced in the lives of people around him. Prior to Jesus arriving, the dysfunction of the demon-possessed man had become a normal part of life in the Gerasene community. That's how it often is. If we don't seek change in our lives and simply drift along with the status quo condition, we don't experience the battle which resisting evil requires. Just like the Gerasene people, if we give in to our dysfunction, it ends up being a normal part of life. That false sense of normal evaporates whenever we confront the dysfunction which occupies our lives. It's easy to give in to addiction. It's a battle to fight against it. If we are honest with ourselves and recognize the darkness within us, whether that comes from greed or lust or addiction or selfishness or discontent, the moment of resistance is when the messy struggle begins. So here are some cautionary notes. First, our personal battle against evil is not likely to be clean and neat. Sometimes we hear testimonials from people who claim instant deliverance from an oppression in their lives. For most of us, though, our battle against the evil in our lives is a series of ups and downs which may tempt us to conclude that God has given up on us. Now, just because Jesus left the formerly demon-possessed man to continue life in his community didn't mean Jesus had given up on him, nor did it mean that the community would instantly accept him back. Second, the messiness of entering into the struggle against evil may cause us to feel that we have made a mistake. It sounds as if watching the pigs charge to their death caused Jesus' disciples to think that Jesus had made a serious error in judgment. It can look that way to us, but without the battle, there can be no hope of victory. Finally, it may take longer for people around us to heal from our dysfunction than we ourselves. It's important to recognize that our dysfunction has not only damaged us, it's damaged others. And it's our responsibility to patiently wait for others to heal from our dysfunction. The fear the Gerasene people had toward Jesus may well have been due to skepticism about the long-term success of the healing of the demon-possessed man, or from simply feeling abused by him and unwilling to forgive him. Abuse victims do not respond quickly to conciliatory gestures by their abusers. In conclusion, we can be quite sure that every time the community laid eyes on the man who had previously been occupied by a legion of demons, they were reminded that Jesus' visit to their community was a powerful before and after event. Even though the Gerasene people were upset about the pigs, I am confident that with time they became grateful for the healing of the demon-possessed man. This leaves us with an introspective question. Is my life a sign of the before and after difference of having had Jesus pass through.